Good morning, you all. Welcome back once again to English Time. We have completed our first lesson in the third unit, and hope you got a clear idea about the class, about the lesson, and you have done your homeworks. Very good, keep it up. Today we are going to start a new lesson. The title of this lesson is The Danger of a Single Story. It is written by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, born September 15, 1977. From the title, you may not get the content of this lesson. What is meant by this danger of a single story? This title itself is a unknown meaning to us. So we have to find out what is meant by this danger of a single story. What is meant by this single story? And what is the danger in a single story? So before going to discuss our lesson, let me discuss the profile of our author, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She is a Nigerian novelist, non-fiction writer and short story teller. So she is from where? From that name itself, you might have got an idea that she is from African country, or African continent. Yes, she is from Nigeria, and she is a novelist, non-fiction writer, and also short story writer. She is regarded as the most prominent among young Anglophone authors in African literature. So she is regarded as what? The most prominent, most important. What? Anglophone authors. What is meant by this Anglophone authors? Yes, a person who speaks English or writes in English who is not a person from England. They are called, such people are called Anglophone. So she is speaking in English, writing in English, and not from England. She is speaking in English in other countries. Actually, this English language is a foreign language for her. So she is the most prominent authors. That is what the name given or people call her. Her works include Purple Hibiscus, Half of a Yellow Sun, and Americana. So these are the main works of whom Ngozi Adichie, or Adichie we can say, Adichie. And here we are going to discuss the danger of a single story. Okay. So before going to there is an introductory part. How do you observe the world around you? Yes, how do you observe the world around you? There is a world around you. You live in a particular country, and there is a there is a world around you. There will be making an opinion about you about your activities, about others. You will observe it and you will listen it. And whenever others speak something against or about you, you may be happy, or sometimes you may be angry, sometimes you may be worried. So that is very important. The world around us is very important. Okay? How do values and practices vary across cultures? Yes, how do values and practices vary, differentiate, or there is a difference? Indian values and practices are somewhat different from other countries. So when we go to another continent, it will be different. So our false assumptions about others can often lead to stereotypes and unfair judgments about individuals or groups. So it's very important. Our false assumptions means what? Our thinking, or our fact. We hear something about people and we believe that is what? Fact. So that is what called the assumptions about others. Such assumptions, false assumptions, sometimes it may be true assumptions, then there is no problem. But what is the problem? If there is false assumptions in our mind, by reading books or hearing from others, we may make some false assumptions. So what is the problem of such a false assumptions? That often lead us to a stereotype and unfair judgments. That will lead us to a stereotype. What is meant by stereotype? A fixed opinion will be there for them. Yes, you hear something about some people from a particular country and you believe it. That is what true. And you don't know that is what a belief you made by getting or reading or hearing from people. That is what false information. You got false information. That is not correct. So how can we make correct opinion? That is what we have to think. So these stereotypes and unfair judgments, we will make it unfair. Unfair means also wrong. Judgments, we will make unfair judgments. Why? Because we heard these false facts from whom, false things, observations from other people, and we made such a bad thing. Stereotypes and biases can affect our lives. So this type of stereotypes, so I told you about that. You hear something about people and you believe it, but it is not actually fact about that people. And when you hear the right or the truth, you will not be ready to change, and that is what stereotypes. And bias, you make an opinion about a country or people and you deal them with the same belief. Actually it is fact, it is wrong, that your belief is wrong, but what you are not ready to accept it. That is what bias. If you behave by this bias in your mind, then your opinions or your decisions will be wrong. Okay, so stereotypes and biases can affect our lives. It will affect our lives. Why? Because we will misbehave with the people. That is what the main problem. Because we believe in such false assumptions. Understanding cultural differences can help one see things from a different point of view and develop greater understanding. So, understanding cultural differences. So, I told you we have our own culture, we follow our culture, and also we have to we should try to understand the differences in the culture of other people from other countries and other continents. We cannot say they should follow our own culture or our culture is greater than them, like that. It is not correct. So, understanding cultural differences can help whom one see things from a different point of view and develop greater understanding. So, you understand there may be some differences. We do not want to argue with them, disagree with them. That is where their culture. So, that way you have to think. Let's see what Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie tells us in her enlightening speech, The Danger of a Single Story. So, this is a speech made by Adichie. So, you have to listen to the speech of this whom? Yes, Adichie. There is a link in your textbook to get that. What? Yes, recorded speech of an Adichie. Okay, you have to watch it. It is available in the YouTube channel also. Okay, so after listening to that speech, you have to listen to my explanation. Then only you will get a clear idea. Okay, so The Danger of a Single Story by Adichie. I am a storyteller and I would like to tell you a few personal stories about what I like to call the danger of the single story. So she starts her speech with this: I am a storyteller. So who is a storyteller? Yes, Adichie is a storyteller. And I would like to tell you, she explains to her audience, I would like to tell you a few personal stories. She is going to tell her own personal stories about what I like to call the danger of a single story. So this term, the danger of a single story, is made by, this sentence is made by whom? Yes, Adichie. And that's why you do not get the clear correct meaning of that title. Okay, it is given or it is used by whom? Adichie. So she will give clear idea about the meaning of the danger of the single story from her personal stories, by explaining her personal stories. I grew up on a university campus in eastern Nigeria. So where did she grow up? Where did she grow up? Yes, she grew up on a university campus in eastern Nigeria. So she grew up in where? In a university campus. In where? Eastern Nigeria. So why did she live or grew? Why did she grow up on a university campus? Why? Because my mother says that I started reading at the age of 2, although I think it probably happened when I was 4. So she grew up on a university campus because her father was a teacher. One, yes, that I will tell you in the story, it is there. Okay, so my mother says that I started reading at the age of 2. It is very curious one, no? She started to read stories at the age of what? 2. Did you read stories at the age of 2? Or did you start to speak? Somebody might not have spoken, started to speak at the age of 2. Somebody would take time. So here, Adichie telling she started to speak. She started not to speak. She started to Yes, what she started to what read stories at the age of, yes, 2. Then, although I think it probably happened when I was 4. Although I think it probably happened when I was 4. Actually it was happened at 4. 4 means also it is very curious one. No? So I was an early reader. So she started to read stories at the age of 4, we can say. Even it is 4, we can say she was an early reader. And what I read were British and American children's books. Yes. Which were the books read by Adichie when she was 4? Yes. At that time, she read British and American children's books. British and American children's book. She is from where? She is from Nigeria. But she read the books from where? The books from British and American authors. So if you read a book, that will highly influence you. It's very important. So Adichie was born in Nigeria, and she was an early reader, and she started to read at the age of 4, and she read the books from England and America. So the stories described in the British and American literature would be what, or will be what, we can say even now also will be what, will be related with the culture of those countries. If you read a story in Malayalam story, that settings, her characters, that belief of that characters, and that people, all characters will be from Kerala itself. And that will, if you read a Malayalam novel, you will get an idea about the life in Kerala. Am I correct or not? Yes, it's correct. When we read a novel from Bengali literature or any other states, language, that language or that author's culture and that life of his state or country will be explained there. So here also it was like that. She is from Nigeria, but she read the books from America and Britain. So that thinking of the small Adichie would be changed because of that reading. So you can understand. Okay. I was also an early writer, and when I began to write at the age of 7, stories in pencil with crayon, illustrations that my poor mother was obligated to read. I wrote exactly the kinds of stories I was reading. The next, she was an early reader, yes, reader. Then also we can say what, she was not only an early reader but also an early writer. I was also an early writer, and when I began to write, when did she begin to write? At the age of 7. At the age of 7 she began to write, means what? Not simply writing what letters and all. Began to write books or stories and poems. That is what saying. Okay, so stories in pencil. She wrote stories in pencil with crayon illustrations. By using crayons, she drew pictures. So by these crayon pictures she wrote stories that my poor mother was obligated or compelled to read. I wrote exactly the kinds of stories I was reading. I told you she started to read the books from Britain and America, and she started to write, and those stories written by Adichie were the same she read. When we read a story, we can write it no? So the same she wrote. It was not from her imagination, just she copied the stories which she read. That is what the difference. And it was who her mother was compelled to read. Why? Because she compelled her. I wrote a new story. Please read, mom, like that she said, and mother compelled to read it. Then all my caters were white and blue-eyed. They played in the snow. They ate apples, and they talked a lot about weather. How lovely it was that the sun had come out. But I had never been outside Nigeria. We didn't have snow. We ate mangoes, and we never talked about the weather because there was no need to. Then I told you what she started to read books from Britain and America. That reading habit of reading those foreign books had a influence on her, and she started to write stories. When she started to write stories, what happened? You know what happened? All my characters were white and blue-eyed. She is from Nigeria, so she is not white. But all her characters in her stories were what? White and blue-eyed. Europeans are like that, white and blue-eyed. They played in the snow, and these characters they played in were in the snow. In in England, the temperature will be very low, below 0 degree in the winter season. In America also it is like that only. So the characters in her stories they played in snow. They ate apples. These if it is very cool in such places only apples will grow. So these characters ate apple, and they talked a lot about weather, and also they talked about what weather. That weather condition will be changing. So what will be there? Winter will be there. Then rainy season will be there, and summer also will not be a problem to them because that temperature will not be a problem to them. So the characters in her stories they talked about even weather, and how lovely it was that sun had come out. They talked like that. Oh, how lovely it is! The sun has come out now. The sun has come out. Oh, how lovely it is! Like that, who talked? The characters in her stories talked. And what is the problem? What's the problem? She is from Nigeria. People in Nigeria, they are not white and blue-eyed. That is what the first difference. And they never played in the snow. Why? Because there is no snow in Nigeria. Why? Because it is the temperature is very high in Nigeria all time. And apples, that's why what? Apples also not growing in Nigeria. So and also what? These people in Nigeria, they never talk about what? They never talk about what? Never talk about weather. Why? Why? Because we didn't have snow, They ate what? They ate only mangoes, and we never talked about the weather because there was no need to do so. Why? There was no change in the temperature, it was always high. If there is a small change, if the temperature reduces, okay, there is a need of speaking. But what is the need of speaking every time if it is more than 40 degrees Celsius? Just you think about that. Who will talk about that? No, nobody will talk about that. If there is a variations in the temperature, all will speak. So what? This girl whom, yes, Adichie had never been outside Nigeria, but she wrote books, stories, and in those stories the characters were all from where? From European or American continents. How did it happen? Because she read such stories. That is what the problem. Have you got it? Yes. So then next paragraph she will talk about what is the single story and the danger of single story. So now we got an example. Now we got an idea. Okay. So here we can stop. Tomorrow I will tell you more about that. Okay. So all of you write. Today's work is what? Today's work is to write the profile of whom? Yes, Adichie or author, and also find out the answers of side questions. Got it? Okay. Thank you.